Hello, everyone. Welcome to another weekend review on Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. I hope you are all enjoying your weekend. And if you're tuning in, that's great. If you missed this live, you can catch the replay on Instagram or catch the uploaded video on YouTube and some clips on Twitter. Not too much on TikTok. So here we are. So I'm going to start off with the COVID cases because I got my notebook here ready and able to stay on task. So according to the World Health Organization, also known as WHO, we have in the United States of America, well, let's start with the global first. Global is important. So with global cases, there are 667,364,883 cumulative cases of COVID-19. There are 6,938,353 fatalities from the virus. And as of this past week, in the last 7 days, there were 179,431 brand new cases of COVID-19 around the world. Now, let's draw our attention to the United States of America. There were no new cases in the last 7 days, but however, we are still the highest with the number of COVID cases, and there are 103,436,829 million cumulative cases of COVID-19 here at home. There are 1,127,152 fatalities from this virus. Now let's go to the CDC with some more of data work. So with total hospitalizations have went down within the past week by 8.4%, but we still have some folks hospitalized at 6,160,000. No, there are currently, total hospitalizations, I'm right, 6,169,122. There has been a current trend of almost 8,000 people admitted to the hospital just based on COVID-19 alone. And that's within the past week. Keep in mind, the White House have declared WHO declared the end of the COVID pandemic as an emergency response, but there are still, in the United States of America, 6,169,122 people still in the hospital. In terms of the death toll, has ticked up by 7.1% within the last week. There are 1,130,593 fatalities within this week alone. That's the total of, not this week alone, but it's just the total of the death toll. The vaccinations, so people that total updated their booster shots, because there's only 17% of the population that received their boosters. So there are 56,478,510 people that are boosted within this country. A little concerning. So all these numbers I read, which I probably posted up on my Instagram, proves already how COVID is still a thing. That's why I encourage everyone to get their shots and still wear your mask and keep your distance, because this thing is still out and about. And that's all I'm telling you, folks, because this thing still here is crazy. Now moving on to the budget for, that was passed, the debt ceiling that was passed by, both the House and the Representatives. I was very shocked to see more Democrats actually voted for the bill. I would expect a lot more Democrats to vote against it, but a lot more Republicans have voted against this bill more than Democrats. Of course, there were some progressive Democrats and even some middle-of-the-road Democrats in the House that voted against it. Then there was a good amount from my state that voted against it, but there was some Democrats that actually voted for it in the House. And of course, in the Senate, the 2 senators from New York voted for it. So therefore, yeah. So to all folks, all New York Democrats are not bad, right? Just keep in mind. But to 71 Republicans that voted against it, y'all don't really like y'all speaker, but to each his own. People don't like the fact that it was passed under Kevin McCarthy, but this is what happens when people sit at home and don't vote, or when you have bad candidates on the top of the ticket that just don't energize the party enough. That's what happens. But now people know that how crucial down ballot races are important, and not just on the federal level, but on the state level and the local level too. So please keep that in mind. And of course, I said what was in the bill. You know, the work requirements did increase to 54 years of age. So if you're 54 receiving, you know, these benefits, you have to work. There's a work requirement, even though there were work requirements before during the Clinton administration. Some people say it wasn't, but it really was. They're going to probably make it harder for people. And Republicans love state rights, even though it's the federal thing, but certain states have certain stipulations when it comes to SNAP benefits. I know mine take care of the most vulnerable, my state, versus probably some other states. I don't know. So that was the only loss. And of course, the student loan thing was not covered from it. But that's going to be a decision from the Supreme Court before the end of their session for this season. And of course, projects going to have to be rushed, which is crazy. So, but this is what happens when the other opposing party takes charge, especially now that the Republican Party is no longer. And let me just explain this about the Republican Party, because I'm so sick of the mainstream media talking about, oh yeah, the Republican Party, you know, it's the party of morality and everything. The Republican Party has been going under so much brand reconstruction. Like, I don't even know what the party is no more. I don't know. It's the party of Donald J. Trump. It's the extreme party. And it has been the extreme party even before he got in there. Because the Tea Party folks and the Freedom Caucus, they were very extreme under President Obama. And to me, I think the Republican Party really has changed since 1964. And it's just been going through its motions. You know, you had Nixon, Ford, Reagan, the Bushes, then that guy. So, and during Reagan mostly sowed the seed for Donald Trump's presidency, right? He sowed the seed for it. And it's the truth. Reagan is not the hero that everyone thinks he is. He's not. But this is who the Republican Party is. They're the party of anti-everything. They're the party of limited government. That means limited government for the most marginalized communities in this country, and it's the truth. They've been trying to cut down social programs since the 1970s and mostly through the 80s. And Reagan basically sowed the seed for today's Republican Party. They keep worshiping him like he's this king. He's not a king. This man tried to literally make this country the rich versus the poor. Because that's what it is right now. Either is you have, or you're in the part of the have-nots. And that's what the Republican Party is today. So whoever disagree with me, I don't know what to tell you. The Republican Party is not the party of morality, globalism, conservatism anymore. It's the party of the extreme. And just to circle back why electing down ballot races are important. So let me just give you a brief lesson on how the government works. Because it seems like every time when, you know, the president has to make a decision or has to negotiate, people get upset. People like to call people old. They're too old to run this country. Like Stephen Smith, which I'm going to get into his behind later. And many other folks. So, I would like people to listen attentively to this brief lesson. America has 3 branches of government. So let's start with the legislative branch. That's the branch that makes and passes the laws. There are two legislative houses. There is the House of Representatives, which is the lower chamber, which comprise at least of 435 elected members collectively. No matter if you're Republican, Democrat, depends on the size. There are 435 people in that lower chamber. And then you have senators. Senators, there are 100 senators, 2 per state, right? They're the higher chamber. They're a higher chamber that they do make the laws, but their branch is more, their house is a little bit more powerful than, their chamber is more powerful than the lower chamber because they actually put judges on the courts. No matter if it's the lowest to the highest, they put them there. And their term is a little longer than the House of Representatives. House of Representatives term is 2 years. Senate is 6. Yeah. So let me just back this up, okay? For people to understand. So, because people don't like explanations, so I'm going to give simplistic terms. There are 3 branches of government in America. The first branch is the legislative branch. That's the branch that makes and passes the law. And once that law is passed from the legislative branch, it goes to the executive branch. That is the branch that enforces the law. So that branch is the president, the governor, whoever's the head of state or the country. They're the ones that put their dotted signature on the bill and enforce the law. Now, if that law is deemed unconstitutional, that's where the judicial branch examines the law and determines whether it's constitutional or unconstitutional. Would you like a repeat? Let's repeat this again. I know I'm repeating for the 3rd time, but I need people to understand. So here in the United States of America, there are 3 co-equal branches of government, and they both check and balance each other. So let's start off with the legislative branch. That's the branch that makes and passes the laws. There are 2 legislative branches here in the United States. The first is the House of Representatives, which is the lower chamber, and those elected members comprise of 435 people. The second is the Senate. The Senate is 100 people, and there are 2 people each state. There's a senior senator and a junior senator, depending the length of their term. Then you have your executive branch. That is the President of the United States of America. That is the person that enforces the law once the legislative branch passes the law and puts it on the president's desk. Now, if that law is deemed unconstitutional, that's when the judicial branch, which examines the law, steps in, and most likely the Supreme Court, because that's the judicial branch, and said, oh, this is unconstitutional. But any judge in the country can deem something that's unconstitutional. So that is an example of checks and balances within our 3 co-equal branches of government. Why am I saying this? Because there's a lot of people that don't understand government, civics, and politics. And I'm not the type of person to educate people, but I am so tired of saying the same thing to grown people much older than me. I expect people that's a little younger than me that don't understand. But when there's people that's over 45 years old that don't understand, we got a problem, Houston. So I said that for a reason. So when you hear people like Stephen A. Smith talking about the president is too old to do their job, you guys messed up in 2016 when you could have elected the pantsuit lady who actually would have saved Roe versus Wade, who would have saved a whole bunch of things, who actually would have made our foreign policy and our allies much stronger. But because Russia has become a threat and even China has become a threat, thank you, people like Stephen A. Smith that don't pay attention and have these large platforms is the reason why we had that guy from Jamaica Estates ruining everything. The things that he did in 4 years is going to take between 16 and 20 years to fix. And this country is heavily divided. Even our legislative branch and our judicial branch is divided. Divided. And the only one that can halfway heal this country or get to a place of healing is President Biden and Vice President Harris. Because it's the truth. It is. And speaking of the 2024 elections, it's important that we vote down ballot races. And even though I am a Democrat, we have to vote down ballot for the president. In order for the president to pass his Build Back Better agenda, which he was trying to pass since the last congressional session, but you had two knuckleheads in the Senate that just didn't want to, we have to vote blue. It's important that we vote down ballot, especially if you're a Democrat, to make it stronger so the president can pass his agenda. Now, if we can't help the president pass his agenda, we can't complain why we don't have the things that we want. Like, if we want paid leave across this country, if we want parents to get out of poverty and get more extra money for their children, if we want to expand more of the SNAP benefits or cancel student loans, do whatever that is to strengthen this nation, we have to vote for the president and down ballot and give him a supermajority in the House and even a supermajority in the Senate. Because if we don't give him those things, there's going to be Republicans that's going to make him a lame duck president. And we don't want our president to be a lame duck president. Because people are trying to make this man a lame duck president, and he's not. President Biden actually confirmed more judges. He actually got more judges sitting on the courts than any other president that I know. And there's more black women that's sitting on the courts as judges. That is a huge thing. I mean, he got the first black woman on the Supreme Court. And better yet, he got the first black woman running with him on the ticket. That's major accomplishments. So if you want this president to do more for you, then you as a voter need to vote for him and blue down ballot. Because if you don't, then you got nothing to talk about. Your points are not valid. It's the truth. And so, as I'm about to end, Stephen A. Smith, you know, the sports commentator guy, who's also friends with Sean Hannity, was saying that the president is too old. Well, if Stephen A. Smith would have went out and voted for the email lady, yes, Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton, we would not be going through the motions of what's going on right now. But because no one came out in 2016 is the reason why we got this awful tax bill that was passed by the Republican House, why everyone's taxes is jacked up, why our foreign policy and our foreign allies was not with us and almost made this country an isolationist country. Let's see. Roe overturned by a rising conservative majority because we had 3 extra conservative judges. So don't blame RBG. And now we're dealing with a divided, not just a divided country, but a divided legislative branch and a divided judicial system. Like, this is not okay. And our voting rights are not protected still. And we didn't really pass police reform that would be effective in this nation. So I'm saying all of this because people like Stephen A. Smith is people that benefited from the Trump administration. He benefited from this administration. And that's a fact. So folks like him, Leonard, and all of those fools out there, don't listen to them. I'm telling you, those folks are the folks that want a Republican president so they can get their tax break. They don't care about the middleman. And if you're still listening to them, I don't know what to tell you because they don't care about you. And that's a fact. And that goes for the freaking shade room too. They don't care about you. They care about clicks and likes. These are people that don't understand how politics works and how negotiation works and how the government works. These are people worried about getting an extra $2. So why listen to them? And also there was one person I want to, get at. So Rachel Vidman had the audacity and even the caucasity to tweet about we need new blood for 2024. First of all, the only reason why you have a voice, ma'am, is because your husband testified, did the whole whistleblower thing in 2019, and got a lot of sympathy from the American people on both sides of the aisle. And when you tweeted that was like a disrespect, because you had Democrats that actually was having your back and following you and also standing up for your husband. I don't understand. Like, I just don't get it. Like, people like her are privileged because she can't speak of a place where she felt, policies affected her, because the policies that man, that last man that her husband worked for, hurt a lot of people in marginalized communities, especially black and brown and the LGBTQ plus community. It didn't affect her. She's a white woman. So of course she would tweet some dumb shit like that. But you know what? I'm so glad that the internet dragged her to the point that she had to delete it. Screenshots last forever. People remember. And you had to apologize. And still your apology was not an apology, because he's like, we still need new blood. This is why people don't need to listen to her podcast. This is why I didn't have no sympathy for her when she was on Tiffany Cross, because she said some dumb shit too. I mean, this is exactly why you can't trust so many of those so-called allies, because then you have folks like that will shit on you and that will go in the booth and vote for the enemy. I'm just saying. But folks, pay attention to what's going on around you. You don't have to pay attention to the news all day. If you want to read the newspaper, that's fine. But pay attention to what's going on, because, people are trying to deter people from voting. People are trying to, vote for the enemy, and realize the Republican Party is not for the people. They've never been. Since 1964 and on, they're not for the people. And they will never be. And that's the fact. A fact. But until then, folks, have a good night. Deuces. Peace.